I want to thank everyone for joining us today as we take a look at how you can modernize your IBM queries with SQL, allowing you to provide clear, visual, real-time information to your user community. Hello, my name is Stacy Jensen. I'm the Sales Manager for the Business Intelligence Division here at Help Systems. I'm going to kick off the webinar and very quickly hand it off to Mike Stegman. Mike is our Senior Data Access Consultant for our Business Intelligence Division. So he has worked on the IBM I since 1988, and he has worked with SQL for over 16 years. In fact, 16 years this last Sunday. Happy anniversary, Mike.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great tool to use all these years, and I really enjoy it. And hopefully, we can show the folks here some new things and some interesting ways to improve their data access.
Great, thanks. So a little housekeeping about today's session. If you have questions during the session, please use that chat feature to send your message. You can reach that chat option by clicking on the orange arrow at the top right-hand side of the screen. We'll address those questions during our Q&A at the conclusion of the webinar. If we don't have time to address all the questions, we'll make sure we address your questions offline after the webinar. We are recording the webinar, and we will include a link to the recording in our follow-up email, usually within a day or so. So, Mike, let's go ahead and get started.
All right. Sounds good. Oops. What in the world just happened there? Holy cow. There we go. Query for 100, as you know, has been around for, well, forever. And it was a quick and easy way to see your data. But it is limited, especially by today's standards and business needs. If you want to see something other than just look at your data, you have limited options: print, copy, paste, use multiple steps to get the file into a PC file. The same data displayed with SQL, from that first slide to this one here. Same data. Actually, query definition was imported in seconds and transported to a SQL object. So to begin with, you get a more modern look, and the business user has a multitude of options right at their fingertips. Save as a PC file, including Excel, printing, emailing, creating a chart or graph, adding or changing subtotals, grand totals, drilling into the details. All of that's available just immediately. Bring in the query, and it's there. All of this leads to saving time and saving money. Faster processing without spending a lot. We have a client who had an employee who was spending half of her day, that was 4 hours every day, to run a series of 12 dependent queries. 4 hours was about the minimum. If something went wrong, she'd have to start all over again. With SQL, they were able to consolidate some of those queries into what we call views and put the rest into what we call a SQL script, and then schedule that whole script to run. Now, it takes 7 minutes. So from her 4 hours down to a 7-minute automated job, they tell us it's cost savings immediately of $38,000 a year, right off the bat. Basically, you can put your data needs of most organizations into these 4 columns. Powerful results without having to write a program or making multiple passes over your data. The flexibility, so that when requests for a change is made, the business user won't have to wait days or weeks. Some users want data in Excel. Some want to look at it in a browser. Some want both. With a centralized store of definitions, users are running the same reports over the same data. And then last but not least is security. Even if you rely on the IBM I for security setup, SQL will honor it. Okay, you can also use one of our other layers down to field level, down to row level for your authority. Designers create a view, a table, a dashboard, etc. Often, users look at it and ask for more, right? The designer can make a change, resave the object. The business user simply runs it again. Another client we have that I've worked with created some dashboards for their users. And the users kept asking for more and more and more, which is typical. But eventually, they ran out of room on their dashboard. So they had to create more dashboards. And to assist their business users, they finally created something like this, which is a dashboard with nothing but buttons. Okay, and the buttons then can take them to other dashboards or directly to their data. They can have a shortcut on their desktop to be this as a starting point. So it gives them a place to launch their information from. Now, when business users do want the data in Excel or some other PC format, you have a few options. You have it on the toolbar, okay, within Viewpoint or from SQL Web Interface, which is the browser. Those are pretty common. We have an Excel add-in. It doesn't require the user to open Viewpoint. An Excel saved a workbook can store the definition location and run it each time the user opens the Excel workbook if they'd like. And of course, pushing the data out in just about any format, including Excel, in scheduled jobs. For those people who do like data into PCs like Excel, many different options, many different ways that you can do it. Now, I'm going to do a SQL demo. I'm going to touch on the three areas I touched on in the presentation: modernizing the queries, importing your query 400s into SQL objects, and showing what you need like KPIs, sharing the data, including in Excel, and then sprinkle in some extras as we go along. Okay, so bear with me a moment as I switch over now. Enlarge this. Okay, so this is Viewpoint. And what we'll see here, we want to see our SQL objects. So I'm connected to a system called Wisdom, going to a library called Business Intel. Okay, now I'm going to import a query definition. See, File, Import Query. Go to my query library. This is IBM iQueries. It can be query management queries or queries. I'm going to grab a couple of them here. If you're doing it from inside design, you're limited to one at a time. But if you're doing it from outside design mode here, allows me to pick multiple. So that's what I'm going to do. I change a little setting there that I just like to change. And now I'm going to grab these three, just because I like these three, right? You can do it however you want. You can grab more. Sometimes, if you encounter something, it gets harder to find out where it's at, but grab a chunk, grab a handful. And right away, you have the options. I can display the results. I can display the results in Excel. I can do all these different options right from the options. There's my data. Same data as the query showed, right? The open orders query, but it's kind of limited. I mean, there's a column there, derived one, right? Doesn't have a title. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up and start adding some SQL functionality. So just right click, go into design mode. Okay, it opens up another window. You can see that the original query had three files, three tables included, right? They're already joined, they're already linked. And show you how easy you can do it. If you don't have one built, or if you don't want to come in from query, you can do it manually. If you went into a design and everything was blank, you can just pick it. Well, here I'm going in, I'm using a SQL setting called favorites, and there's an auto join feature within Viewpoint that I've told SQL whenever these two files are brought in, I told it how to join them. Okay. So now I have 4 files. So I've already enhanced this query a little bit. I'm going to grab some extra fields that weren't in there. I can click and drag, grab a region here. Let me grab another field here. You can see all my joins up here. You can see my 4 files. There's class. I wanted to bring in class. I want to bring in the description of the products as well. Okay. You can see how easy. If you double click, a field just goes to the end real simply, but I like to click and drag if I'm modifying something like this. And to move a field, very simple. It's all mouse driven, right? So far, just about everything I've done here is all just with my mouse. I haven't done a whole lot of work. I do want to change the column heading for this CAD3 field that you see here. It's actually called city, right? That's the name, that's the data. So I'm changing it to city. And there's that derived field that was at the end. I want to give it an alternate name because it's recommended so it knows how to work with it behind the scenes. And I do want to create a heading that the user would find more useful. Okay, real simple. You can do some more calculations in here too. You can do conditional logic, date conversions, etc. when you're doing your derived fields. Sort orders, I'm going to add region and state and then just change the sort orders, and you'll see how the other order fields that were already out there get adjusted downward. Okay, so now I've set that up. You can change the formatting of any numeric field. Nice and easy. I can take it from a number, can make it a currency. I can add 1,000 separators or remove 1,000 separators. Sometimes you have 1,000 separator out there in the file, but you're going in the field, and you're like, yeah, I don't really want that because it looks weird to have a customer number or an order number with a comma, right? I don't have to do it for region. It's only 3 position data there. At any point, you can display and see what you're looking at, right? Check your calculations, see what it looks like. You see here, the original data. All I did was add a new file to get some extra fields. There's my original. Okay. Pretty much the same data. I did change the sort order for region and state, so it looks a little different, but it's the same data, same basic stuff, right? Derived field out there is now called extended price. All my options are still available out there. Now in query, if you're going to add a prompt, you have to create a command. There's other things you might have to do. There's stuff you have to build. Here, we're just going to put it right into our definition. Now, if I wanted to hard code it, easily hard code it, just put in the field and the value. But it's just as easy to create a prompt. All right. And if you use the same field name as your variable name, notice that ampersand, that's all you have to do to identify that as a variable or a prompt. Okay. We created it for you. Now, when I hit the display, it's going to prompt me for a region. Okay, so I can put in region 10, for example, click OK or hit enter. Now the information shown is for region 10 only. Go down to the bottom there. You can see it's just region 10. You can also tweak this variable a little bit, make some changes to it. Go over to the variables tab. Since we created it for you, you don't have to mess too much with the top. You can change the prompt text, but you can also add a values list. Okay. Let's say you only want the user to be able to pick from 3 regions, right? 10, 20, and 30. So now when I hit display, there's my drop down for 10, 20, and 30. Okay. If I take 30, same data I just saw a moment ago, but now it's for region 30. Okay, just very powerful use of it there. Now you can also use what's called a DB list. You can look at a file, or you can look at a SQL view. I'm going to look at a file here, and I'm actually going to use the customer master file that I'm using in the query. You don't have to, but I'm going to do that. So I'm going to change it to file, and I'm going to grab the customer master. Okay, tell it to use the region field. Okay, so there I have that. Now, if I hit display, now I see all the regions that are available. Not a whole lot. I could have kept that as a list. But now if I do add a region, it'll automatically appear on this list. Right, and I pick region 40, and I can see the data. Now I'm going to do a save as. If I just did a save, it would step on that original query that I brought in called orders. But I want to call it orders 2, and then change the description to just say prompt for region. Almost put state there. Sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to say prompt for it. Now order 2 has been saved. Okay. Very simply, just added that. Now you can do more complex type queries. Here I'm using sum. It's not really that complex, but I'm using the sum function, sum, min, max, average, or count, right? So I'm summing my data at the region level, and because I'm using that, I automatically get dynamic drill downs. So I get the ability, the user does, to drill into the data, all from one view. So I can look at the units and sales information by region, pick a region, and say, show me the detail by state. So I go into it by state. And then I can continue drilling from there and do more. The columns are the same: units, gross revenues, cost, profit, margin, etc. But it's still we built that view under the covers. We modified it to just the select clause and the group by clause, etc. So the more robust the first view is, the more I can drill into the details. You can do something like this. Here I'm using my grouping function, sum and union, right? In this case here, I needed to do it because I was building a cash flow. And in order to get the cash flow, I had to go over the data a couple of times. But right here, using the SQL, just kind of minimize that so you can see it a little bit, the results a little bit better. Now you can see I'm doing so each one of these lines is a separate select, but they're union together in one result set. The user A doesn't know, B doesn't care. Same thing with a subquery. Okay, whoops, I forgot to close that one out. So a subquery. Here's my subquery. I have my select, right? I have my where the data is coming from. And my where clause, my filter, is saying where the amount due is greater than the average of all the amount dues. Okay, that's a simple subselect done in the where clause. Okay, now I have 21 customers whose amount due or current balance due is greater than the average. Right there in the where clause. You can do a lot more types of subqueries. They're all done in the where clause with SQL. But scripts, if there is a possibility where you do have to do multiple passes over your data, scripting comes into play there. So here I'm doing an execute of one view and building a work file with that result set. So that's what's happening here is I'm running the one view and I'm telling it to bring in my data. Then the second view is going to display the 13 records. That's what I entered in my prompt, 13. I could have entered more. I just chose 13. And this is a time when I do need to go over multiple passes. But again, the user can run this from a shortcut, from a button on a dashboard, from Viewpoint. Doesn't matter where it's run from. Right? Let's say you have data on multiple servers. So you build a couple of views over those data, over that data. The data on, in this case, I'm looking at IBM data, SQL Server data, and Oracle data. So I have those three separate views. Putting the data onto a common server, here I'm using the I, just a work file within the I, and then the last line of the script brings everything together. So I have Baker, or Bear as it's called here, Able, and Cook, ABC, right? I have all three of my data sources merged together. The last line of my script says bring it all together, and the user can display it. So they run one object, and there's the result set. This is the SC return, if you notice there, is meant as a script view, so it's meant to be run interactively. If I take a view and I right-click on it, I'm going to grab this little one called AR. There's all my options within Viewpoint. Displaying the results, displaying directly into Excel. I mentioned that in the PowerPoint, how you can do that. I can just right-click on it, say double-click or right-click display information, right? There's my results. Then if I hit the Save Diskette from the results window, I get to choose a PC format, including Excel, and put it wherever I need to, my data. But like I said, when you right-click, you do get a display right in Excel, so you don't even have to display the results. You can also save results as a PC file, including Excel, right? So this is all interactive. I can email, right? So that comes with, I can tell it who to email to, subject, message, PC format type. You get a whole list of options. And I can schedule it, right? And if you happen to have Robot Scheduler from Help Systems, that's what will come up in focus here, Robot Schedule. If you don't, it's okay. IBM Job Scheduler comes in. This will create an entry. Okay, you can also create them directly from those tools. Now, bouncing over to SQL Web Interface on the browser side, there's the exact same view I was just looking at, AR. Right-click, display results. Okay, similar to what I had on the Viewpoint side, except here it's zero footprint. The user doesn't need to install anything. They just need to get directed to the URL that you see at the top there. But with your system, I'm going into Wisdom. Here's my email. Okay, now I can't create a scheduled job from here, but a lot of times that's what IT want. They don't want two users doing that. They just want an interactive email or display or saving as a PC file. If I double click, here's my results set. Okay, there we go. I can download it right to Excel right from there. I can email. I can create a chart. I can change my subtotals. Here there's just grand totals, but if I had different data, maybe I'd want to do some subtotals. I can change my sorting, hide the columns. You know, maybe before you save it as a PC file, you want to take out a column or two, things like that. Easily done from the browser level. A lot of different things that you can do from the browser. So the user has no design capabilities from the browser, but they still have a lot of flexibility and a lot of power. The views behind it are using the power of the definition, but you can continue to go. So let's look at a dashboard real fast. I'm going to use our Viewpoint Design tool and build a dashboard. This is what you get when you start, a blank screen, and you do an insert. I'm going to start off with the view. It doesn't matter if you insert with the view first or text boxes or buttons. You know, it's just however you want to see it. I said insert AR. There's my accounts receivable view. Just runs it. Now it's attached to the dashboard. So I can size and position the window anywhere I want. If I highlight some data, I can use the graph or chart button on the toolbar and create a chart. Now the chart's on the dashboard, size and position where I want that. And of course, you see how easy I can move these around. It can be changed. Let's insert another SQL object. Let's grab that one out of the one that we imported, that orders 2. I imported it, modified it. Remember, orders 2. There it is. Now this is going to ask us an important question, because remember, orders 2 had a prompt. So I make my selection for the prompt. Pick 40 this time. Here's my question. Do you want to save that variable with the dashboard? Selecting no to that question will prompt the user when the dashboard is open. That's what I want. So I'm going to select no to saving and let the user be prompted each time. I'm just going to move these around because I need a little more real estate for my orders 2 results. Again, sizing the window however I see fit. You can do other inserts, text boxes, right? It's a good thing to label your dashboard so the user is confirmed to know what they're looking at. It's going to call it simply dashboard example. I can change the text color, background color, font, style, and size. I like to make my text a little bit bigger. I don't want a border. I like it to blend in with the background like that. Position it where I like it. Graphics are like images, maybe a logo, something like that. Action buttons, that's basically a button that runs other SQL objects. I'll show you what those look like from a user standpoint, but let's go ahead and save this one. I want to save it as a System I object. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it's going to be saved as a SQL object. Okay, you can run those, as we saw before, from the browser. Okay. But it's going to be a little bit easier. Now it's a centralized database. You can create shortcuts from it. If you make a change, the user doesn't have to change the shortcut as long as you don't change the name or location of the object. Okay. Like I said, a lot of times users go, oh, that's great, but can you add this or change this? Can you make that pie graph a bar graph? Sure, you go in and change it. They just rerun it and it changes. They can do it on the fly, but sometimes it's easier to do it differently. Okay. So if I take a look at that menu dashboard that I showed on the PowerPoint, okay, just a little one I created here, just a handful. But if I click on that, and I had that, let's say I had that as a shortcut. So when I started my PC in the morning, that's the shortcut on my desktop. Boom, click on it. Now I choose where I want to go. Now I'm looking at the daily updates. I can see my income, AR, and cash flow as gauges. I can see a couple of charts that I built, a pie graph and a line graph. The pie graph has drill down capabilities. It shows the toolbar. The toolbar that I showed earlier with my data, I can download it. I can drill into the data. These are action buttons that can take me to other dashboards or to other data. Right? I can actually have other data showing up on here. Let's go to a different dashboard. Right? Let's go to one called Sales Rep. This one's prompted right up front. I'm going to pick my year range and my salesman number. Now the 3 results set in the upper left-hand portion, those are for everybody for the years, 2016 and 2017, and then the data on the right and the chart down below, those are for the customer or for the sales rep that I selected. If I hit the reprompt all, I can change any of this. Let me change the salesman now. I'll go up to number 7, and you'll see the data change where that's appropriate. There it goes. It reruns it for everything, but the only time the data changes is for the chart and the data. Okay, so that's the buttons here. Powerful way that you can create a menu system for your users. You can have different colors. You can have the same colors. The one customer I mentioned during the PowerPoint, they had a lot of colors on theirs. It was pretty amazing. Here I'm running again one that is prompted. This is a multi-select, so I'm going to pick multiple states, and there's the data. Okay, same toolbar. I could sort it if I want to do it by state or whatever the data I have out there, creating charts. This one's sorted by current balance due, but I have a lot of different choices with that. Okay. So you can see how you can do quite a bit with the dashboard. All right, so let's go. Here's the sample dashboard that I created during just a moment ago, right? So you can see how that gets out. There it is. Boom. It's one I just created. The data for AR, a chart for AR, and then the data. All right. And that will wrap up the demo portion. So whether you're converting your old queries, your IBMI queries, or building them right from scratch from SQL, you can create powerful yet flexible results. Customized dashboards allow you to create and share KPIs from Viewpoint or from a browser. So Viewpoint, again, is our GUI interface, the browser being the browser. We do support all 4 different browser types. And again, you can combine different pieces of data all in one place. You saw how easy it was to take data into Excel. So empowerment is making the information easy and flexible for the business user. Keep hearing that term a lot, or it might be overused at times, but it's still, very, very useful. Empowerment. They'll begin to rely less on IT for simple things like reports. IT can then be more productive. Using SQL and IBMI together provide peace of mind that every IT manager would like to have. There's no doubt that SQL is a solution that has many advanced functions. They're there when you need them. Now, I do have a polling question that I want to insert at this time. Didn't know there was going to be a test, did you? Just going to put this out here now. If every user out here would just click yes or no real fast, and if you want to see more, because there is a lot more to SQL. We've only scratched the surface of what SQL can do.
That's so true, Mike. Well done on the demonstration and the information. I know once we're done with the polling question, we'll take a look at the questions that came in during today's session. As Mike said, we're doing this quick poll, but we do offer a free trial. It's a good way to see if SQL is a good fit. We will help you install and use the software over your system, making sure that you can really see firsthand how easy it is to use and really how quickly you can empower those business users with clear visual information.
Okay, I'm going to close it now. We got a pretty good response. Pretty good, actually. All right.
Good. So we can move on to the questions. I know we've just got a minute or two left here. One question that did come through was on dashboards and if it's extra or if the option to create and deploy the dashboards actually comes with the SQL solution.
Can you say that again?
Yep. So it was just about dashboards and wondering if there's a separate option, if creating and deploying dashboards actually come with SQL.
It's all together. It's all together. Yeah. There's I think in history, like I said, 16 years, and Stacy's been there just a little bit longer than me. I think we tried to look into doing things separately, but it's so much integrated, right? It's like Microsoft with all the different pieces. It's so integrated that it's so much better just to keep it all together that way. So it all comes together. Dashboards is there. So if anybody out there does already have SQL and you're not utilizing dashboards, you have the power, you have the availability. You do want to get current if you're not, okay? So if you're current on maintenance, you can get current on the product, and then you can start building your dashboards. You'll have more flexibility and more functionality that way. So absolutely. The reason I was delayed on that question, Stacy, was I was reading some of the other ones that are coming up through the question area. Will the import query handle when a file is joined to itself? Yeah, as far as I know, if the IBMI handles it, I believe it will handle a query joined to itself. Depends on how it's joined, but yeah, I don't have an example like that, but I believe that is okay. Can SQL Server queries be imported? We don't have a button for the SQL Server queries to be imported like you saw on the demonstration there, file import query, but you can import those. Absolutely. If you can get to a place where you can copy the SQL from an SQL Server query from Microsoft SQL Server. Then all you have to do is open up a query design, paste it right in. You want to make sure that you're connected to the database. There's a couple of things like this, but absolutely you can bring that in. How similar or different is this from SQL Server? Well, since we're connecting to the I, we're relying on the IBM I's SQL format. But if you have a database, so the product installs on the I, but if your database is on an SQL Server, you can access that. You saw how I did that through the query, built queries over different databases. And then if you need to merge the data, it's there. If you just want to have that, so you load it on the I and you run it from there. So if you're in, you actually have two options when you're designing your query. You can either use our syntax of SQL, or you can use SQL Server syntax. And people who are familiar with SQL Server can keep that syntax. So,
and being able to access data on other servers, other remote databases is all part of the product. We automatically install those drivers for you. So,
exactly. Does the processing happen on the I? Is one of the questions from Wendy. Yeah, actually, it does. If it's doing against the SQL Server, it's still, we handle some of the parsing back on our side and handle it here. But we reach out for the data, obviously. And if the data's on the I, you can actually have it, instead of using the query processor, which is older and slower, you can use a SQL engine, which is faster. We've had customers who tell us that they've taken a 16-hour process down to 4 minutes by switching from the query processor to the SQL query engine. So, there's a lot that you can do. So most of the processing does happen on the I. The results, once they're displayed, depending on where you're coming from, if you're doing a Viewpoint, if you're doing from SQL Web Interface, from the browser, the results will come up there, and then you can take those results wherever you need to. But it does go there. Is it able to do queries with CTEs? Yes. The tables there. Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility you can do against SQL tables. There's a lot of different ways you can access the data from there. That's all I'm seeing is questions, and we're actually past the time here, but that's all I'm seeing is questions. If I missed one, we'll get back to you independently, like Stacy mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah. So Mike, thanks again. Nice job on the demonstration. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have a great day.